Monday evenings weren't usually quiet in our house. Normally, I'd come home to the smell of whatever Courtney was trying from her latest food blog obsession or the sound of her music always too loud, always something indie. But that evening? It was quiet. Unnaturally quiet. The kind of silence that feels like it's holding its breath. I got off early from the shop, slow day, couple of cancellations, so I figured I'd surprise her. I even grabbed Ty from that place she liked across town. I didn't call ahead like I usually did. Thought it'd be a nice little change from the routine. Something simple, thoughtful. But then I turned onto our street. Courtney's car wasn't in the driveway. That wasn't unusual in itself. She sometimes parked on the street if she was in a hurry. But as I drove past our house, I spotted it tucked halfway down the block on the opposite side of the street, pulled almost behind a row of thick hedges that lined Mrs. Abernathy's yard. It wasn't just randomly parked. It looked hidden. I pulled into our driveway and just sat there for a second, engine off, watching the rearview mirror. My heart kicked up a little, not in full panic mode, but something felt off. I grabbed the takeout and went inside. The front door opened with its usual creak, and immediately I felt it, that subtle heaviness in the air. Not like danger exactly, more like I had just missed something. I stood in the entryway waiting, listening. There was no music, no scent of cooking, but I swore I heard her voice fade out just as I walked in. Maybe through the kitchen or upstairs. Like she had been in the middle of a sentence and stopped cold. "Court," I called out. A moment later, she appeared in the kitchen doorway wearing her usual work-from-home gear, leggings, oversized sweater, hair pulled up. Her smile was tight, a little too symmetrical, like she'd practiced it in the mirror. She held up her phone and said, "Just finished a call with a client in LA. They're finally confirming that brand shoot for next month." Total chaos? I glanced past her into the kitchen. On the counter by the sink, I saw a glass, tall, clear, half full of something citrusy, and 2 straws. Still wet. One pink, one black. She noticed my gaze and added almost too quickly, "I was testing lighting for product SH*TS, just using 2 straws to compare shadows. You know how weird sunlight is in the kitchen around this time." That explanation sounded innocent enough. Creative even. But it landed wrong. She talked fast, like she wanted to preempt any question I might have. Her tone was light, but I noticed how she tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear twice, like a nervous tick. I'd seen her do that during stressful calls or when she was about to lie to her mom. I nodded. "Cool. I got pad CEW. Figured you'd be hungry." She smiled, relief flickering across her face, and came forward to help set the food out. I let it go. At least on the surface. I didn't ask again about the car or the glass or the voice that had stopped the moment I walked in. I just played along. It wasn't because I believed her. I didn't. Not entirely. It was because I knew the script that would follow if I pressed her: defensiveness, gaslighting, maybe even some we*P*nized guilt. Courtney was smart. She knew how to control the narrative, how to spin things so I'd feel like the one being paranoid. And for a long time, I let her. We ate dinner in the living room, watching some reality show she liked. She laughed at all the right moments, made fun of the contestants like she always did. But her phone never left her side. It was face down on the armrest beside her, and every time it buzzed, her eyes flicked to it with a kind of practiced casualness. I remember glancing at her then, really looking and wondering when she had started being someone I didn't fully trust. After dinner, I took the plates to the sink and passed by the glass again. The ice had melted into slivers. 2 lipstick smudges on the rim. Subtle. But they were different shades. One hers deep red, the kind she wore on Zoom. The other? Lighter. Pink. It could have been innocent. Maybe a neighbor stopped by. Maybe her sister. But something in my gut said otherwise. She came up behind me and slid her arms around my waist. "Thanks for dinner," she said, her chin resting on my shoulder. I hesitated, then placed a hand over hers. "Yeah," I said softly. We stood like that for a few seconds, but it felt rehearsed. Like she was trying to reset the mood, realign the evening. She kissed my shoulder and wandered upstairs, saying something about needing to finish emails. I cleaned up alone, the hum of the dishwasher filling the silence. That night, I lay in bed next to her as she scrolled on her phone. The glow lit up her face and pulses. When I turned toward her, she angled the screen away, barely, but enough. I closed my eyes, not because I was tired, but because I didn't want her to see me watching. And in that darkness, a thought settled in. This wasn't a moment. It was a pivot point. I didn't know what was coming next. But I had the distinct, sinking feeling that whatever it was, it had already started. For the next few days, I tried to convince myself it was nothing. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe work stress was getting to me. Maybe that second lipstick stain was hers after all. People double up on colors, right? But then the patterns started. It wasn't like Courtney became a different person overnight. That would have been easier to spot. Instead, it was the little shifts, subtle, careful changes that only stood out if you knew her like I did. And I knew her. Or thought I did. For starters, the phone. We used to be one of those couples who'd trade phones to order takeout or check directions without a second thought. That changed somewhere along the way. She started using facial recognition. One day, I picked it up to silence a call while she was in the shower and the screen locked me out. Just flat black with a white, face not recognized message. When she came out, towel around her head, and saw me holding it, she froze for half a beat, then smiled too wide. Sorry, she said casually. I switched it for security. A client told me I should. She always had a client story ready. Like they were her invisible shield against every suspicious glance. Then there were the business trips. A lot more of them and all bunched up. In a 3-week stretch, she flew out twice, once to Chicago, then supposedly to Atlanta. She packed light, more casual than usual. I asked her who she was meeting, and she rattled off names I didn't recognize, then pivoted to how exhausting the planning had been and how I should be happy I didn't have to deal with influencer drama. The weird thing? I didn't even press her hard. Not really. I think deep down I was afraid of what I'd find if I pushed. But then came Nashville. She was supposed to be in Chicago for a Women in Marketing summit. I had no reason to doubt it. She'd left her schedule open on the fridge with flight times, hotel confirmation, even a lanyard ID badge from a past conference she pinned for consistency. It all looked legit. Until my buddy Reese, one of my oldest friends from high school, sent me a video from his night out in Nashville. He was at a bar downtown celebrating a colleague's birthday. He **t a quick Instagram story panning over the crowd. Nothing special. Except there she was. Courtney. Sitting in a corner booth. Laughing. Not alone. Next to her was a man I didn't recognize. Clean-shaven, dark hair, tailored dress shirt with the sleeves rolled halfway up. She leaned into him, hand on his shoulder. His arm rested along the back of the booth, just close enough to suggest familiarity. I must have replayed that 10-second clip 50 times. Trying to read her body language, trying to pretend it was innocent, trying to pretend it wasn't what it so clearly was. When she got back from Chicago, I didn't mention it. I just waited. Let her do the talking. Ugh, she sighed, tossing her carry-on onto the bed. That trip was brutal. So many panels, and the hotel had paper-thin walls. I swear I didn't sleep for 2 nights. I nodded, watching her unpack. She pulled out a black tank top I didn't recognize. New? I asked. Oh. Yeah. Just grabbed something last minute from the airport boutique, she said, too quickly. I didn't respond. Just watched her fold it and place it in the drawer with the rest. Later that night, I brought up Reese casually. He had a wild night in Nashville, apparently, I said. Ran into half his college crew. Sent me some dumb video of them goofing off in a bar. Her fork froze halfway to her mouth. Not dramatically. Not enough for most people to notice. But I noticed. Because I was looking for it. Oh, she said after a pause. That town's crazy on weekends. Bachelorette Central. She kept her tone light, but her eyes didn't meet mine. Didn't you say your hotel was near the river? I asked. She nodded slowly. Yeah. Why? Just wondering, I said. She didn't respond after that. Just went back to her food. The silence between us was sharp. I told myself I needed to be sure. That what I had wasn't proof. That coincidences existed. But I knew. In the way your body knows a storm's coming before the clouds even gather. You just feel it in your bones. One night, a week later, she was in the shower and her iPad lit up on the couch beside me. I wasn't looking for anything, I wasn't. But the notification stayed on screen just long enough for me to read it. Message from Oliver, still thinking about Sunday. Oliver. That name had never come up before. Not in our circle. Not in her client roster. Not in any casual conversation. It was just there. Dropped like a crack in the floor. When she came out of the bathroom, hair damp and smelling like citrus and vanilla, I was already sitting on the other end of the couch, iPad face down. She glanced at it and something unreadable passed over her face. But she didn't say anything. Neither did I. Instead, I waited. Like someone tracking footprints in the woods. I didn't know where the trail led, but I was going to follow it. Quietly. Carefully. And I started seeing all the signs I'd ignored. The way she always locked the bedroom door during her work calls. The new lingerie set that still had the tag half hidden in the trash. Her sudden interest in yoga on weekend mornings, except she never came back sweaty or in workout gear. Just freshly done makeup and a forced glow. I started to keep notes. Not like a detective or a crazy person. Just records. Dates, times, details. Not because I planned to use them, but because I knew the time would come when I needed to stop lying to myself. And when that time came, I wasn't going to be caught unprepared. Friday started like any other, slow, steady, forgettable. I was at the shop by 8:30, sorting invoices and dealing with a cranky client who thought his muffler had a weird echo. Just another routine day. But around 3 o'clock, I got a text from our insurance rep asking me to download and sign a claim receipt for our home policy update. Simple enough. I grabbed Courtney's old MacBook from the living room shelf, the one we both used for bills and vacation planning. It hadn't been touched in weeks. She used her work laptop for everything now, or so she claimed. The battery was low, so I plugged it in, booted it up, and went to the shared email folder. And that's when I saw it. A folder on the desktop titled Receipts_Export. I hovered the cursor over it. It was created 4 days ago. Modified yesterday. Something about the name didn't sit right. It didn't match her usual naming patterns. She was meticulous, always labeling things with dates, brands, underscores. This one felt generic. Hasty. I opened it. Inside were subfolders OCT_Oliver, DEC_messages, and one simply labeled for _me. I didn't want to click. Every part of me screamed to close the laptop and pretend I never saw it. But I did click. Because I had to. The first file I opened was a chat export, plain text, no formatting. Just lines and lines of conversation. It started mid-October and ran all the way through January. The sender and receiver were clearly labeled. Courtney and Oliver. And it wasn't business. Not remotely. The early messages were cautious. Can't stop thinking about yesterday. When you said I made you feel seen. I haven't stopped replaying that. Innocent enough to pass as emotional venting. But then the tone shifted. I wanted to kiss you so bad in the stairwell. I still smell like you. God, if Zach knew what we were doing. Zach. That's me. I felt my pulse in my ears. My hands were shaking, gripping the edge of the couch so tightly my knuckles whitened. I forced myself to keep reading. Photos were embedded in the chat. One of her in an oversized white shirt I'd never seen clearly his. Another of him standing behind her, kissing her neck in a mirror selfie. She was smiling, eyes half-lidded. Comfortable. An asterisk mate. Not like someone making a mistake. Like someone at home. There were voice notes too. The kind you send when you can't text fast enough. In one, she whispered, I dream about waking up next to you. I hate going back to my real life afterward. Real life. That's what our marriage had become to her. Something to tolerate between fantasies. I clicked on another file for _me. It was a note addressed in her handwriting. Not a letter. A kind of journal entry, maybe. Dated 3 weeks ago. I wish I could make this easy. Zach doesn't deserve this. He's been good to me. But good isn't the same as right. Oliver and I, we just fit. I don't have to explain myself with him. I don't have to shrink. I feel like me again. And maybe that's selfish, but I'm tired of apologizing for who I am. That part crushed me more than the photos. Because it wasn't just about cheating. It was about erasure. About how she'd rewritten our entire story in her mind to justify this new narrative. One where I was safe but dull. Where I had somehow boxed her in without even realizing it. I closed the folder. Shut the laptop. Sat back on the couch, staring at the ceiling. There it was. The truth. Finally, completely. No more doubt. No more suspicion. Just reality, cold and precise. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't being paranoid. I was being replaced. And she was already halfway out the door in her heart. Later that evening, she came home as if nothing had changed. Kicked off her shoes, kissed my cheek, asked what we should order for dinner. I told her I wasn't hungry. She tilted her head like she might press, then let it go. We watched a movie. She curled up next to me like she always did. Arm around my chest. Face against my shoulder. I could feel her heartbeat through her sweatshirt. I stared blankly at the screen, watching explosions and car chases that meant nothing. All I could think was, how many nights had we done this while she was already gone? After she fell asleep, I sat up in bed and stared at her for a long time. Her mouth slightly open, one hand curled beneath her chin. She looked peaceful, innocent even. It broke something in me, not because of what she'd done, but because I could still feel that part of me wanting to protect her. I hated that. I lay back down and stared at the ceiling until morning, unable to close my eyes. Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. I didn't say a word the next morning. I packed while she was still asleep. Small things. A few changes of clothes, my shaving kit, laptop, hard drive, anything irreplaceable. I didn't make noise, didn't slam drawers or stomp around like some dramatic movie exit. I just moved like I was drifting through someone else's life. She stirred once, rolled over, and mumbled something about her alarm. I didn't respond. By the time I stepped outside with my bag, the sun was just beginning to rise. That pale golden hue, soft and forgiving. A day too beautiful for what was happening. I drove to my Uncle Trevor's house on the other side of town. He was one of the few people I trusted implicitly. A retired cop with a quiet way about him, the kind of man who didn't ask for explanations unless you offered them. When he opened the door and saw me standing there with my duffel bag and *T eyes, he just stepped aside. "Spare room's clean," he said. That was it. I didn't cry. Not that morning. Not even when I set my things down in the guest room and stared out the window at his empty backyard. I just felt hollow, like every part of me had been scooped out and replaced with static. By noon, I was on the phone with a lawyer. I didn't want revenge. I wasn't out for blood. But I knew better than to play nice with someone who had already started erasing me in private. I needed protection, legal, financial, emotional. I needed documentation, strategy, leverage. Not to hurt her, to survive her. The lawyer, a calm woman named Tessa, was efficient, patient, and quietly fierce. She didn't flinch when I told her about the messages, the photos, the voice notes. She asked questions I hadn't thought to ask yet, about our shared assets, passwords, whose name was on which account. "Do not confront her yet," she said. "You're ahead because you're quiet. Stay that way. Collect everything." So I did. That week, I began building a digital wall of evidence. Pulled every chat transcript from the laptop folder onto an encrypted drive. Scanned receipts. Downloaded synced cloud photos she probably forgot were still backing up automatically. I logged call records, time-stamped social posts, emails that contradicted her business trip excuses. Trevor watched from a distance, only offering help when I needed it. He cooked dinner most nights and kept the house silent enough for me to think. I hadn't realized how much noise Courtney and I had normalized. Constant Spotify playlists, podcast chatter, background TV. Here, in the quiet, I could finally hear myself think. Courtney, meanwhile, must have realized something was off. I didn't respond to her texts the first day. Then she started calling. The calls began lightly concerned. "Hey, are you okay? Where'd you go?" Then more anxious. "Zach, please answer. You're scaring me." Then angry. "This is childish. You can't just disappear." She didn't know I had already disappeared weeks ago. She just didn't notice. By the third day, she pivoted to guilt. "The kids are asking about you." We didn't have kids. She meant the dog and the 2 cats, her way of leaning on shared emotional tethers. "I'm worried about your mental health." The classic. Imply instability to soften your own betrayal. "Maybe we should go to counseling. I don't want to throw everything away." But it was already gone. I didn't reply to any of it. Not because I didn't want to, but because every word I said could be twisted, saved, *p***nized. Tessa had warned me, "Don't argue over text. Don't justify anything. Let her spin. The truth is on your side." I followed every instruction, like a soldier with a checklist. At night, I lay in Trevor's spare bed and stared at the ceiling fan, wondering if she was reading back through their messages, thinking, how did he find out? Or maybe she was too wrapped up in Oliver's world to care. Maybe they had plans. Maybe she was already picturing life in some new city, a condo with a view, brunch on Sundays. But then I'd remember the photos, the ones she didn't know I had, and that little journal note titled, "Furnace for me," and I'd feel my jaw clench all over again. She had built a secret world, and I was a ghost in it. On Friday morning, a week after I left, Courtney finally broke protocol. She showed up at Trevor's. I saw her through the blinds, standing on the porch in that long gray coat she wore when she wanted to look serious. She knocked 3 times, then rang the bell. I didn't move. Trevor answered. Said nothing. Just held the door, one hand braced on the frame. I couldn't hear her words, but I saw her face cycle through the motions, confusion, pleading, then quiet frustration. Finally, she left. I watched her car pull away and felt a strange, sudden grief, not for her, but for the life we had pretended to build. For the nights we made soup and watched documentaries. For the way she used to brush her foot against mine under the table when she was tipsy. For the woman she had been before Oliver. Or maybe the woman I thought she was. I texted Tessa that afternoon. She came to the house. Didn't get in? Do we move? Her reply came 5 minutes later. We're ready. Filing next week. Get your financials in order and your passwords changed tonight. I opened a spreadsheet and started listing accounts. I wasn't just walking away now. I was fortifying myself. No more silence. No more waiting. It was time. Roughly a month passed after I filed. And in that month, Courtney changed tactics again. She stopped texting me daily. Instead, I'd get these long, carefully worded emails every few days, each one dripping with nostalgia like she was trying to flip the script and make me doubt my own reality. She talked about our early days. The cabin trip in Tahoe where it snowed on the first night and we slept in front of the fireplace. The time I drove 8 hours in one stretch to be at her father's retirement dinner. I miss who we were, she wrote in one message. I miss the way you used to look at me like I was your whole world. It would have been touching if it hadn't come from someone who casually planned a parallel relationship behind my back. The Courtney who wrote those emails wasn't the woman I had caught wrapped around another man in her own digital world. It was her PR version. Polished, emotional, revisionist. Then came the invite. I got a physical envelope in the mail, handwritten, soft off-white paper with gold trim. It was an invitation to a charity gala she helped organize every spring. She hadn't missed one in 5 years. Dress code, formal. Theme, an evening of renewal. I almost laughed. The cover letter was short. Zach. I know things are hard. I also know you're hurting. I thought this event might be a neutral place for us to talk. You've always loved this night and I'd like to see you there. For what it's worth, I'll understand if you don't come. Courtney. I didn't reply. But I showed up. Not for her. For me. I wore the black suit she bought me 3 Christmases ago, the one I usually saved for weddings and funerals. It felt poetic. My friend Malcolm went with me, partly to keep me grounded, partly so I wouldn't second-guess myself. We walked through the tall glass doors of the Astoria Center around 7:15 and the whole place was draped in silver string lights and fake cherry blossoms. I spotted her almost immediately. She was at a table near the center, laughing, wearing a backless emerald dress I'd never seen before. Her hair was pinned up, shoulders glowing. She looked radiant, perfectly composed. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel pain. I felt like I was watching a stranger. Malcolm nudged me. You okay? I nodded. I'm ready. She saw me a few minutes later. Her face froze for a heartbeat, then smoothed over into a smile, warm, rehearsed. She stood, walked toward me with delicate grace like nothing between us had fractured. Zach, she said, touching my arm gently. You look amazing. So do you, I said. I meant it. But it didn't mean anything. We made small talk for a few minutes. She asked how the shop was doing. I asked how the campaign rollouts were going. Neither of us mentioned the divorce or the upcoming court dates. Then she got a call. Excuse me just a second, she said, leaving her clutch on the table as she walked toward the lobby. I sat there, alone. The low murmur of music and polite laughter filled the room. Malcolm was at the bar. I stared at the clutch, half daring myself not to look. Then her phone lit up. First message. Oliver, still thinking about last night. Can't stop replaying it. Second message. Oliver, that dress is gonna K*LL me. Don't take it off without me. My chest didn't drop this time. It didn't even clench. I just exhaled. Like I'd been holding in the last gasp of belief that she might salvage something honest from all this. I took my wedding ring off, quietly, and placed it on the linen napkin in front of me. Then I pulled a pen from my coat pocket and wrote a note on the back of her place card. No need to talk. I already understand everything. I stood, buttoned my jacket, and walked straight out. Didn't stop to say goodbye. Didn't look back. Malcolm followed me out and didn't say a word until we reached the parking lot. He handed me the keys. You good? He asked. Better than I've been in months. And I meant it. Back at Trevor's, I poured a glass of whiskey, sat on the porch, and let the cool air fill my lungs. Courtney would see the messages. She'd read the note. And maybe for a moment she'd feel a flicker of shame. But I didn't need that. I didn't need her remorse. I had confirmation. And finally I had peace.